Blog Talk Radio.
What's up, everybody? My name is Clifton Pettyjohn, and you are listening to Transformation Radio, where we transform lives through purposeful conversations. Have you ever gotten to a place in life where you find yourself asking, what now? That's right, what now? Circumstances and situations have happened. You feel as if you've been hit from the left and the right. You feel as if nothing that you do ends up working out the way that you desire for it to work out, and you just don't know what you need to do right now. The reality is we've all been there. And sometimes we've been there without the tools, techniques, and strategies to help us make effective decisions to produce the future that we desire. You don't have to do this alone anymore. I invite you to listen to my podcast. That's right, my name is Clifton Pettyjohn. I'm a purpose strategist, author, transformation coach, and spiritual leader. And I host the What Now podcast. And the What Now podcast is simply conversations that teach us how to effectively face life's most difficult moments. That's right, life's most difficult moments. So, if you're interested in hearing the podcast, I encourage you to visit my website, www.cliftonpettyjohn.com. Again, www.cliftonpettyjohn.com. There's a tab for the podcast, and you can pick your favorite platform. We're available on multiple platforms, so you can pick your favorite platform, pick the platform, subscribe to the podcast, listen, comment, and share. All right? So I encourage you again, make sure that you are listening to the What Now podcast. What's up, everybody? My name is Clifton Pettyjohn, and you are listening to Transformation Radio. That's right, Transformation Radio, where we transform lives through purposeful conversations, regardless of how uncomfortable and unpopular those conversations are. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. I appreciate you. If you have been joining us, thank you, and I appreciate you as well. I'm telling you guys, if you're used to the show, if you're not used to the show, we are in for a treat on tonight. I'm going to get all the preliminaries out of the way so that we can turn this man loose, like, talking like we at church, y'all. But we can turn him loose so that he can share with us some things that will help us experience greater transformation in areas of our lives. Now, some of you might feel, I've already experienced transformation in my life. That may be true, but in every area of our lives, we all could use a little more transformation. All right, so listen, here's how this show works. We want each and every one of you involved in the conversation. That means we want you to call in with your questions, call in with your comments. We want you to call in. Now, here's how it goes, though. My guest and myself may have different backgrounds and belief systems that you may have. That's okay. we can all learn to agree to disagree. We just want to make sure we do it in a respectful manner. Therefore, if you do call in, we do ask that you remain respectful, because if you don't remain respectful, I am going to have to hang up on you. But I already know we're not going to have that tonight because we have a great crowd on tonight. So here's the call-in number, 516-387-1756. Again, 516-387-1756. So now, without further ado, help me welcome to the show Mr. Elliot Carlyle. Elliot, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm great. How about yourself, man?
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm great as well. I want to thank you for joining us on tonight, and I want to thank you for your willingness to share with our listening audience.
Oh, man, thank you. It's a pleasure. You know, you and I have years of relationship, and I want to say thank you for allowing me, you know, to be on your platform. I don't take these opportunities lightly, and so I have to thank you, and it is a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And some of you that are listening, you already know I told you that I've never had a conversation with Elliot and not left like feeling as if I could leap over walls, run through troops, run through walls. I've never had a conversation where I left feeling drained or emptied. I always felt empowered and encouraged to go a little farther. So that's why I know tonight you're going to be encouraged. You're going to be pushed. Some of it might not sound the way that you desire for it to sound, but I'm telling you, it's going to work for your good. So, Elliot, we like to start with a light question just to break the ice a little bit. I use the same question for everybody, and here that question is. If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be and why?
Oh, my gosh, to be in multiple places at one time. It would just be such an easy, it would make my life so much easier, and then also it would help me with the plight that I often have because I double book myself and triple book myself so much. So if I could do that, it would just help me so much.
I definitely understand that. That's definitely a good one. I understand that one. Now, here's what we do. We play a game of word association. As I told you, even off the air, I'm going to give you a word. You can either say the first thing that comes to your mind. You can break that word down, what that word means to you from your personal life experience. You can sing a song related to it, however you want to interpret this word or however you want to express the interpretation of this word to you. All right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here we go. The first word is life. Life.
The first word is life. The word that comes to my mind is journey.
Okay. We're going to come back to that. Okay. The next word is love. Love.
Power.
Awesome. Okay. The next word is fashion.
Oh, technology.
Okay. Let's go back to love because you hit something there. I want to get that. I can't let that one go. Power.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to talk to us about that there.
You know, because love, the Bible tells us, of course, that the greatest gift is love. And just for me in my life, I think, when I look back on things that I've been through, the only thing that has really kept me going in life is understanding and knowing the power of love, and that not just knowing it as some feeling or, some intimate, experience that I had, that made me feel good, or some word of adoration or accolade that someone bestowed upon me, but actually understanding that I am here, I am in existence to this day, and I survived the things that I survived and I've overcome the things that I've overcome because, first, God loves me, but also understanding that the people that he's put in my life, and many times when you hear me talk, I often talk about the circle of influence that I have in my life. I have literally been able to keep my mind because I've had people around me who I know, in fact, no matter what has gone on in my life, who truly love me, and they've demonstrated that. And so in my life, when I look at, what love is beyond all of the, Valentine's ideation of love, but love is a power. It is the power. It is a gift, and it is truly a keeper. And so when I think about love and what it requires to love, is something that I don't take lightly. So you saying, that word, the first thing that did come to my mind is power.
Awesome. Now I want to ask you a question about that whole definition or experience of love, that the way that you interpret it. Is that something from your personal experience, or have you always had a different mindset as it relates to love? Because a lot of times you ask individuals about love, they're going to talk about the warm feelings that they feel. They're going to talk about somebody that did something special for them, but you kind of made it as if, taking ownership of it yourself and valuing it from that standpoint. Now, have you always had that approach with it?
No, I haven't. I will say I believe that it's always been around me. I was blessed to grow up, in a very loving home. I, have a very loving family, and I believe that, through my life I've been able to live as a very loving person, but understanding that there was this power, there was this experience, there was this gift of love that was being showered and exercised, in my life, really came through surviving traumas and disappointments and, having to overcome setbacks and sadness and hurt and rejection. And I think that through those things, because oftentimes, those are experiences that we go through that shape this mentality and shape this programming in our mental psyche that tells us that we're unloved and that we're not worthy of love. And I have been one to struggle with sometimes those ideations or those mentalities in my life. But one day, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it was my pastor. This was about 2000, I want to say maybe 2005 or 6 or 7, somewhere along those years, where we were in a conversation, and he said to me that one of the greatest strengths of your ministry, one of the greatest strengths of your life will be in helping people to understand, that God loves them and that he doesn't have an issue with them. And what I realized is, and even if you look at my book, and I know you have it, the reason why I wrote the book is because it was for people who have ever questioned, am I too much or not enough? And the truth is, because as popular as I am and as popular as I've always been, in my life, even, growing up in school, I was, best dressed boy, most popular boy, most friendliest, all of those class favorites, all the way through graduation. But the truth of the matter is, oftentimes I often felt when I was off by myself that I was too much or not enough. And so I think going through life, battling, that, but always being a person to want to be used and positioning myself in the lives of people to let them know that there's nothing wrong with them. It's okay to be different. And if you're different, you're just different. God made you different, and that's okay, to help people to find the beauty in their difference, to help people to find the uniqueness in their voice, to help people even discover that they have a voice who didn't even understand that they had a voice. And so I think through those things, which really just became natural to me, it just was my heart of hearts, I really understood that there's a ministry of love in that. There's a power that people experience called love in those moments and in that level of ministry that doesn't come, by going to Bible study or going to choir rehearsal or all those other, things that we do, out of our understanding that what is given to us as far as what ministry is, but just understanding on a basic life, basic human level that every one of us has the capacity to love, also the capacity to receive love and deserves love, but just finding out how to minister and give that to people, but also being conscious of what it does. That's when I got to that place of understanding in my life, when I realized that the reason I'm able to be used is not, is not about anything other than I really, truly do have a love for people, and I have that. And also I've been able to receive that because not just people, but God has always had a love for me.
Wow. Now, we're going to transition right from that to the next word, and the next word is ministry.
I'll use technology again.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, you said something while you were talking. You said God doesn't have an issue with them, as in, that's part of what your ministry is, to help individuals understand that God doesn't have an issue with them. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I find that so many times in life that, and I know I've been there before, where I felt as if God had an issue with me. And sometimes it seemed as if no matter how much individuals were trying to show me and tell me and, instill in me that he doesn't have an issue with you, I had to fight hard to get past, the ideology of he has an issue with me. So what approach do you take with individuals when, and I know that every case isn't the same, but what's an approach that you take with individuals that are struggling with the concept of God has an issue with me?
I think, I'll just say this. I understand that usually most people, they position their issue as if it's an obstacle. And so the thing that I found to be effective is I want to show a person that what you think is an issue is actually not in the way of anything. It's only in the way of you in your mind. But it's not in the way of people who you are destined and purposed for. Because usually when you compare it in terms of the guidelines of purpose, you'll find that, the old saying, those who matter don't mind and those who mind don't matter. Usually, where our issues are obstacles for us when we're trying to exercise, I'll borrow from the words you gave, when we're trying to exercise a ministry or a purpose with people that we were not called to and people that we were not designed for.
Well, now, let's stay, because I got to go back to fashion and I got to go back to ministry too, because you use the same word for both of them. And when I hear technology, it's ringing so much in my spirit right now because of everything that we're going through. And of course, I do have to ask you this question concerning ministry. I'm going to slide that in right now because this seems to be one of the major topics that I'm seeing as I'm scrolling through Facebook and scrolling through Instagram, is the idea of a lot of people being upset about not being able to physically gather. I want to hit that just a little bit because to me, when you talk about technology, sometimes I feel as if staying in the understanding of a physical gathering is not advancing in technology. So I want you to, talk about that, your mindset concerning it, and then I also want you to tell us exactly why you use the word technology for ministry and for fashion.
Okay, that's a loaded question. So I will say this, and I understand the conversation that you've seen, and I'm very well aware of that. I actually shared something a few days ago, or sometime early last week, in reference to that. I won't repeat it here. It was quite a controversial statement, but it's the truth. I think that when it comes to the frustration that you're seeing a lot of people voice about not being able to gather. So in terms of, let's just say, church, for those who go to church, and that, these churches and ministries are not allowed to have these gatherings and conferences and services and revivals. The truth of the matter, well, I won't say that. I'll ask a question. The question that I would ask is, the Bible tells us to forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, right? I am very big on fellowship. I am very, very big about I have brunches. I have get-togethers all the time, and just for the sake of fellowship. And in this time, I really, really do miss that. I'm not necessarily missing any church service because most of those are about something else other than just fellowship. So when it comes to, again, going back to purpose, if the purpose of it is for us to, assemble ourselves together, to be able to worship together, to pray together, to do those things, then yes, then for those who are connected to the original intent of what that is, then there is a great void in this time. However, if it is about, me not being able to sustain because I don't really have anything else to focus on, because I haven't put anything else in place as far as a business or a workflow or an income flow. And so when people don't gather, then I can't pay my bills. Then that's a different frustration. And I'm sorry, but in this time, we're seeing a lot of mixtures going on in these frustrations that are being expressed. And so I think we really have to really get down to the truth of what the upset is that is on the table. So that's to answer that. And your other question about why did I use the word technology in terms of ministry and also fashion, because I tell people all the time, for me personally, I do know that my purpose, my ministry is building people. Now, I was able to choose fashion as a technology to execute that. And there's many different ways that you can execute your purpose and your ministry or your career, because for some people their career is their ministry. They actually get to execute their purpose through that channel or that technology, if you will. So for me, I can say that fashion is my ministry, even though my ministry is multifaceted, and I have different arenas and different areas which I'm able to execute that. But we can borrow those words and interchange them there for me in that case. And I do believe that's the case with most everyone.
Right. And I wanted you to explain that so that the those who are listening could understand and gain an understanding and realize, oh, okay, that makes sense to me now, because that's why I wanted you to explain that to them, because I think that the way that you explained it will help a lot of people understand that that's what I am doing. I just haven't been able to identify it as such in the way that he explained it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually
so now
that's
you hit the
because
word.
We've been programmed. I'm going to say usually that's because we've been programmed to think that ministry is standing up, in a pulpit with a robe on and a Bible, or in and out on the street corner, or doing some revival, or and so most people who have not been called to that, and that is a function of ministry. We do know there is the preaching of the gospel, but there is, there's the ministry of helps, there's the ministry of music. I mean, there's so many other ministries, and all ministries aren't in the four walls of the institutionalized church. And so, if you only limit that, then you cut out a lot of people when, even Jesus said, I have sheep that are not of this fold. So you cut out a lot of people and then basically told them and given them the mentality that they do not have a ministry because it does not look like yours.
And I really feel like that, this is why circumstances and situations like what we're going through now, to me, is a time for a lot of people's ministry to shine. Even though, church may be shut down, it's like it's time for other people's ministries to shine. So that's why it doesn't bother me, the state that we're in. I hate to hear of the deaths and all of those things, because 2020 has been, quite an interesting journey, these first 3 months. But at the same time, I look at it as it's an opportunity. Like, I think that sometimes we've been, as you said, conditioned or trained to miss opportunities when they don't look like what we become accustomed to. So let's talk right now about the next word. Ties right into what you were saying, and that word is purpose.
It is a vehicle. Purpose is it is a channel. It is a leader. It is a guider. It is a sustainer.
Got you. Okay. Now, because a lot of people ask this question, and I always like to ask different coaches and influencers, how do you find or how do you discover your purpose?
It's with you all the time. And the thing is, most people spend their life looking outside of themselves for things that are already in them. I do this exercise often when I speak before, especially I love doing it before large audiences. But I tell people, if I was to give you, and I'll ask you this question, and you may have heard me talk about this on Destiny Conversations, but if I was to give you an apple seed, and I told you to go outside and plant it, and you did, and you came back inside, and I was to ask you, what did you plant? What would you tell me you planted?
I would say an apple tree.
And that's exactly what you planted. I knew your mind was going to get the question. That's exactly what you planted, because inherent in the seed of the tree is the tree itself. And I tell people all the time that you are just that seed, meaning that everything that you need, you were born with the fullness of the day that you came through the birth canal. You were born with everything that you would need to become whatever it is that you were spoken to be from the existence of time, and that from before the existence of time, actually. And since that is the case, then everything that you need to function, to prosper, every resource that you need, it's going to come from within and not without. Mm-hmm. And
okay,
so
now let me play. I want you to finish that, but I want to play devil's advocate real quick. Well, if that's the case, what do I need a coach for? What do I need a coach for? What do I need a pastor for? What do I need a prophet for? What do I need all that for if it's already inside of me?
Because sometimes you don't have the tools that it takes to help you dig in your treasure hunt. And so sometimes, for instance, I tell people with the book, let's just take the book that I wrote, the Influence Workbook. I tell people all the time, Dr. Petty John, that the book, there is nothing, I love when people get the book, but there is nothing that I'm going to give you in this book. The book is not designed to give you anything. The book is written in a way that it helps you to pull out everything that you're looking for that's already on the inside of you. Mm-hmm. And so it may feel like, and you may think because of the way that I'm able to do it, that I'm giving you something, but what you came into contact with and what you discovered was with you all the time. Mm-hmm. And that is the experience that people have, when going through the book. But this is the experience that people have just in conversation with me. This is the experience that people are having, when they're having these euphoric moments and, having these eureka moments. That's the word that I wanted to say. But it's not about, you being connected to something that was never there. You're actually being reconnected to what was with you all along, because it's inside of you. For instance, your purpose is something that you've been doing all of your life. You may have been not looking at it, in the guidelines or in the eyesight or insight of purpose, but usually by the time you discover it, you realize, man, I've been doing this all my life. And it's just my innate ability to do it. It is my gift. It is my power. It's second nature, to me, because usually when people go on their hunt for purpose, they're looking for something that's this big thing that exists outside of them that, that they're going to be able to now embrace and put on or get inside of and or pursue, that is now going to bring them, these monumental results. But it's the thing that you've been doing all your life. It's the thing that's been speaking to you all your life. It's the thing that you just automatically get naturally turned on to do, that nobody ever has to prompt you, because it is literally in you and you possess it, and it goes with you everywhere you go. It's always in your conversation. It's always in your mental Rolodex. But many times also we're comparing our purpose to, the purpose of other people, or the way that other people are executing their purpose, or the magnitude that we think other people are executing their purpose. And so we think that, because the things that we have, they may seem so insignificant, or they may seem like, they're not great, or they're not anything grand or powerful, or they're things that, people don't really appreciate like that, because, we're comparing them based on how we see other people engaging in theirs. And if we do that too much, we'll start to ignore our own.
So true. So true. So true. So true. So then how does one address they find themselves in that comparison state? Like, they're comparing themselves to everybody. Like, they feel as if theirs is so small. I was there before. I was there. I felt what I did wasn't even valuable compared to what everybody else did. How does one begin to transition from that train of thought and begin to embrace, what it is they've been called and designed to do?
Yeah, usually that's a complex, right? The comparison complex, and all of us at some level, we all do it. I still do it. To this day, I catch myself all the time, because I'll do it really, really easily. I'll look at something, someone is doing, or something someone is saying. It can just be something small. Somebody can tweet something that ain't even that deep, and I'm like, I tweeted that, 2 weeks ago, and then nobody retweeted. You know what I'm saying? This one got 50 retweets. Like, why did you? It's just in the little things, and then y'all sit there and go through a whole conversation. Well, let me see who this person is. But we all do it. But I think, for me, I would say the truth is falling in love with what it is that you've been called to do. And I think that's something that we really have to understand, not just, discovering your purpose, but also understanding that your purpose works greatest by love. And so when you fall in love with it and understand that it is something so uniquely given to you, because nobody can do, a lot of people out there doing what you do, but nobody can do what you do like the way that you do it, because it has your divinely given thumbprint on it when you do it. And so, I think that we may desire, sometimes for the different results. And I think that, the comparison thing is often driven by the results that we get when we are executing our purpose compared to what we see someone else getting, but understanding that your results are just as powerful. For instance, one of the things that I often share, in what I do, it's not very glamorous in terms of, my purpose. And, outside of the speaking engagements or being on these platforms, or, these radio shows or podcasts or things like that, this is about as glamorous as it gets, but what I do is so intimate and one-on-one, and it's so personal that I can't broadcast, the testimonies and the things that have been shared with me about the effectiveness of my purpose in the lives of people. It would look real interesting if I started posting and sharing some of that stuff, So, what I do, there's no awards, or, I'm not going to get any Grammys, or, any of these major accolades or award shows. When what we do, there's no award show or platform, to be showcased for that in terms of that. But at the end of the day, every day, I'm saving the lives of people. I'm saving people from mental breakdowns. I'm saving people, from themselves. I'm saving people from the elements, in just a simple conversation. You know what I'm saying? But I can't broadcast that or put that out there, but I know, at the end of the day, I tell people I can sleep at night. Even my book may not be a New York Times bestseller, but I know that before my book was a month old, it had already helped 4 people off of the ledge from committing suicide. That right there, if nobody else got the book, just the fact that 4 people are still walking in the earth today from reading a page in my book, listen, then the job is done. You know what I'm saying? And the reward is there. And so I do understand, that there are levels, to our ideas of success, and there are, there are things that we desire, and all of us, want to be celebrated and appreciated, but it comes where it comes. And I think at the end of the day, understanding that I always want to be a pleaser of the one who gave me the purpose, the one who gave me the gift. If nobody celebrates me, down here, I am worthy. I have completed, my job when I've done it for just one, and it's saved just one person. It's affected and it's produced in the lives of just one person. And so it is a daily, constant reminder, for me, and for me, that's what's helped me to not get so, caught up in the comparison complex that is there, and all of us again have to deal with it. It's part of the human experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely. I definitely get it. I had to laugh though when you were talking about. I tweeted that 2 weeks ago. I've done it.
We do.
I was like, well, wait a minute. Are you serious? Like, maybe I should just start giving them my tweets and having them tweet it
right.
out. You know?
Yep.
I've been there with that. Now I have one more word. Because we're still in the game. We've just been going off of the game. But this is good. I'm enjoying it. I'm telling you, I'm enjoying it.
I am. Me too.
The word that I want us to hit is conversation, and the reason why I want you to hit that word conversation, because that's very important to me. And that was another reason why I wanted you on the show too, because I look at you as a conversationalist too. Like you said, you can sit and have a conversation with somebody, and each time you have a conversation with them, it's like something goes off inside of them, and they're like, wait a minute, I was missing this, but it was here the whole time. So what does the word conversation mean to you?
It is life. I'm telling you, for me, conversation is life. I get so thrilled. I get so fulfilled. Let me tell you something. I recharge in conversations. Let me tell you, I literally do not get tired of talking. I mean, conversations like this, I can go for hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm serious. There's something about this kind of word exchange because, again, our words do have power. Our words, death and life is in the power of the tongue. But when we are talking about, purpose and destiny and leadership and lifestyle and finding our purpose and cultivating our purpose and how can we be effective in the lives of, each other, and how can we each learn to be better versions of ourselves, all that. I mean, this kind of exchange here, like the spirit that it creates, see, that's what you're experiencing. And just like, what you said about, every time we talk, you leave feeling so empowered. And so, there are not many people who have this connection that when you talk to them, you leave encouraged and you leave empowered and you leave invigorated and you leave revived. But this is the kind of conversation that sustains my life. I'm telling you, man, like I have very draining days. I have very draining moments. I have to go in some very draining atmospheres. But one thing that I understand is that there is life on the inside of me and that I have the ability to engage a conversation that brings life and shifts atmospheres. And I want to do that intentionally every day of my life, because it's not just what I give, but it's also what I need.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to share that too, because there's so many people out there that, as you were talking earlier, don't even realize that they have a voice. And the reason, many times they're not realizing they have a voice is because that is their superpower. Once they realize they have a voice and how powerful that thing is, then, they begin, to change and shift atmospheres, sometimes just by their very presence, by them showing up. And then when they open up their mouth, it's just so powerful in it, so much power in it that it just is so attractive and draws. So that's why I want to know what your thoughts were on conversation. Now, I want to ask you a question. When did you realize that there was power through your conversation?
If you go back, if you were to go to my mom and dad's house right now and go and look in these yearbooks or wherever that little folder is where my parents have kept my report cards from when I was in grade school, you find that on every report card, I laugh at myself, every report card I got excessive talking. I have always talked. But it's not so much about, me just talking. I've always had something to say. And I really am grateful for having parents that understood that in me and allowed me to develop my voice and taught me how to speak and how to express myself and gave me space and room to express what it was that I was feeling or hearing or saying. I really am grateful that they didn't shut that down in me, and that even, my teachers who, said that I was excessive in talking, that, their comments or their remarks, that it didn't damage that in me and shut me down from using my voice, because it is literally, my ministry and my gift today. And so even that could have created a complex, but I think I'm really grateful to God that my parents were sensitive in that and understood that. But I will say this to you. I think that I started to understand that when I realized that I've had from a young child, I've had the ability to gather people together, and people would listen to what I had to say. I've always been able to gather people together for a cause. And I mean, just from whether it was organizing, events, or I even had when I was in high school, I started this community choir with it at my school that started just as a music workshop. And then we did this concert, and everybody just wanted to stay together. And I had that group for a few years, but it was over 150 voices strong. And kids who didn't even go to church, but they would come to choir rehearsal and they would sing for me, but they wouldn't even get up and go to church on Sunday unless we had a gig or something like that. But I've just always been able to gather people together, and I think when I understood that you could say something that would change the lives of people, or you could say something that people would never forget, that came from you, I think that's when it shifted my perspective in understanding that this voice, there was another power in it that I really needed to take time to make sure that I respected and honored this gift, so that I wasn't just out here just running my mouth, but I actually was talking, and that what I was saying was an actual conversation and not just talking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So now, as we're transitioning from the game, I want to hit something, that I see as your mission statement, or I saw it on your website, and it just continues to stick with me every time that I see it. Building people for global influence, and I think what stands out to me the most about that is that it's the people that are like the essential part of it to me. You didn't say building global influence for people. You said building people for global influence. And I think sometimes people have been brushed to the side as it relates to ministry, as it relates to business, as it relates to life. So how do you continuously make people the focal point or the nucleus of what you are building?
The truth is, if I let myself disconnect from that, I probably would die out. Because remember, it is also, your purpose is the only thing that can also sustain you. See, when you talk about being fulfilled, I don't care what job you're working on, you can be making, 6-figure, a year income. But if you are doing that and you're disengaged from purpose, no matter the money, you're still going to be unhappy. Because purpose is the only thing that can fulfill you. And so for me, and what I do, it can easily, the industry that I'm connected to, it can easily be very superficial. And it's about, it's about stuff and things that honestly, we really don't need any more of. That's another conversation. But I'm just saying, we don't really need any more shoes and bags and clothes and jewelry and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, we have enough to last a lifetime. But the truth is, behind every bag, behind every brand, behind every concept, behind every idea, no matter what industry it is, no matter what business it is, no matter what corporation or company is, it is all about people. A person came up with it, a person thought it, a person designed it, a person did the text for it. I mean, it all is about people. And I found that just being connected to that as I navigated my career, even just in what I do, the way that I do it, I found that it wasn't always just about what I was able to do. And most times people didn't even really hire me for what I was able to do. People would, sign contracts for me to do things, but then they would pay me but get somebody else to do them. They just wanted to talk to me. And so I understood that, because this really still is about my voice. This really still is not about, me doing what I'm able to do or even what I've been educated to do. You just need my voice to be connected to you. And so you hired me for the voice and not necessarily the skill.
So now what would you say to the speakers? I'm in some speaker groups, and I see a lot of them now are kind of going into, a state of panic because that has been their main source of income, the public speaking and their voice. That's what they use, as far as it relates to their purpose. What would you say to those right now that this is kind of hit hard? The engagements are canceled, and with the engagements canceled, now the finances have been, a little disrupted, which means, it causes a residual effect with them. What is something that you would encourage them, or what would you say to them in this time?
Well, the same thing I've been saying to everyone is it's definitely not a time to shake. It's just a time to shift. Every industry is being disrupted. We are really experiencing a culture shift. And that is okay. And so what it's going to take now is people are going to have to go back, and they're going to have to now get in a place of strategy and use wisdom on how they're going to reposition or package some of what they do, and some people are going to have to change altogether and start back from the drawing board. But that's what happens when a shift takes place, because there's no time that you can prepare for it. A shift just happens. And so that's what we've experienced. And so I think that especially for those who are creative, this is a time to really, really experience a wonderful refreshing. It is a time to really get, with yourself and figure out, okay, because at the end of the day, if this is truly your profession and you have established yourself as an expertise, trust me, your voice is still going to be needed. The audience is not going anywhere. It's not that, there's not going to be a need for voices anymore. It's just how are people seeking out those voices, and then how are you reaching your audience? Just because the platform dies, did your voice die out? Like, did you? I mean, the voice is still there. The mind is still there. The wisdom and the keys and all of that's in you, it is still there. And so that's why I teach people that, if what you are going to build, you must now become, because of the fact that you always have to be in a place that what you have built, you built it from the inside out, meaning that it came from whatever you're building and whatever you've erected, that it came from inside of you, so that when everything outside of you, if it shifts or changes, or even if it should crumble and fall, you can go back inside and build again. And so it is not a time, to die out. It is just a time to get smart, to get strategic, to talk amongst yourselves, to talk with other people and figure out how can we re-engage in this shift, because that is exactly what it is. And no, some of these gatherings may not be taking place the same. So, if you haven't been a person who has embraced, what you're doing, radio shows and podcasts and, video equipment and doing, all of these broadcasts and figuring out how to monetize them and all that, well, you might have to do that. And it's going to also shift the way that people compete in the market. But that's what happens when there's an upset and there's a cultural shift. Things move, and you have to figure out where they're going and how you can go with them or get in front of them.
And it's amazing what you said, because I fought doing a radio show and a podcast. I fought it for years. I fought doing Facebook Lives and all of that because, I had some personal things within myself that I was fighting with. But I really didn't see the need of it at the time. And now here we are now, and I'm like, I get it now. It was good that I learned to shift. It was good that I learned to transition because I was a person, I love face-to-face encounters. It's just something about a face-to-face encounter that I love. I love a live audience. I hated sitting behind a microphone and a camera. It was I remember the first time I did it, it was like so wild to me. Like, and you would think, well, wait, you should do that with a crowd. But I love the crowd. But I had to learn how to transition to understand, it's bigger than just a live crowd. And now, with everything we're going through, I'm like, wow, I'm grateful that I was willing, to transition. And that's been my encouragement to everyone as well. Is like, you just got, it's still, like you said, it's still there. Build from within. And as you were talking, I had to laugh because I remember one day waking up and having a conversation with myself. I always have conversations with myself. I call them team meetings. But I was telling myself, you're your worst client. And I had to realize, like, for real, like, whoa, I'm my worst client. I had to begin to work on the fact that I was, being my worst client at that time. And it's like you said, build from within. And as long as you build from within, then if it breaks down, you can build that thing back up. So let's talk about the book, all right?
Yes.
Let's talk about the book because actually if you're out there and, you're struggling with what exactly you should be doing right now or you feel as if there's stagnation in your creativity, this book will be a great opportunity for you to read while you're quarantined in right now. So let's talk about the book. The Influence Workbook, Trajectify Your Life. That term, trajectify your life, can you break that down for us?
Yes. So the purpose of the book, I love it. I just laugh when you ask questions. But you have to take your life and put it in a flow. Find your flow and then put your life in the flow that you find. And that is basically what the purpose of the book is for, because I believe that all of our destinies and all of our purposes, which were spoken before we ever got here, which were designed and laid out before we ever got here, it's here waiting on us. And what we are looking for is already looking for us. Whatever it is, that's what it is. And so the purpose of the book is for you to get in position so that you can navigate this journey, going back to what I said earlier, we call life with intention. And when you do that, then you are on a trajectory to manifesting a destiny that is fulfilling of yourself and other people. Those who you've been called to.
Awesome. Now, who should purchase the book? Who should invest in this book?
The book is for everyone, all ages, anyone. But I find that it really does speak to people who are visionaries, leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs, and most people, it's interesting, find the book. Some people have used it to start things. Some people have used it to just figure out, where to get started all out, having never gotten started before in whatever their new trajectory or whatever their business or creative idea is or anything. I mean, some people are just starting from a green slate, but the things that I found most interesting about the demographic I found more interesting for me personally has been the people who have been doing what they've been doing for years and have just run into a brick wall to realize that, this really doesn't work anymore. It's not prospering me. It's not really prospering people. And I feel like I'm running on fumes and I need a reset. I need a refreshing. I need basically to take myself through a makeover moment because I still love what I do, but it's just not as effective as it was in the beginning because I understand understand that there has now been a shift that is taking place, and I need to figure out where I'm going to get in the shift and where I'm going to position myself in the shift. And so I really get excited when I find out people are using the book in that place. Sometimes that can be a more difficult place for people to begin, but for those who endure the process, it is incredible, and the results that they've been sharing with me have just been phenomenal.
All right. Now, what sets the Influence Workbook apart from other books that may cover some of the same subjects?
Let me tell you, because it is just that. It is a workbook. It's not a book that you read and then you just, I give you some good, keys and you like, man, this is good and feeling motivated. No, you have to get involved in this because, again, what you need is already on the inside of you. So it is about you engaging your shift. I am just the leader. I am just that. It is literally a coaching handbook. I am just the coach, and I am there. And if you need to reach out and, have any deep sessions, I'm tangible, I am accessible, but really you can take this book, and most people want to say, come to me with things, Doc, and they'll say, I just need to sit down and have a conversation with you. And I'm like, I don't need to talk to you. Have you read my book? And I'm talking especially people who I know have the book and you haven't started it. We don't need to talk. You need to get the book. And because everything I will sit down and tell you is already in the book. So just do the book, and then I'll talk you through it. But just get the book.
And that's what I wanted you to hit. I knew you were going to hit it because a lot of times I know in some of the phases and stages of life I've been in, and some of the people I've mentored have been in, it's like you want the easiest thing sometimes, and the easiest thing is that I read it and it gives me the solution and it does all the work for me. But what I loved about your book was it's a workbook. You got to put something into that thing, and what you put into it, it's going to determine what you get from it. So, and that's what life, that's what purpose, that's what vision, that's what everything. So that was what I definitely loved about the book. Now, can you tell people where they can get the book? I don't want you to give all your information yet because we're going to do that at the end, but I do want you to tell them where they can purchase the book.
Yeah, the book is available worldwide on Amazon. If you just go to Amazon.com and type in the Influence Workbook, it'll come right up. It's black and white. And also, if you go to trajectifyyourlife.com, it has its own website, and of course, they can get to it from my website as well. But it is on Amazon.
Okay. So now my question would be, what inspires you or what keeps you going? When you talked about how sometimes you go into some spaces that can be very draining, you have some days that are like that as well. What keeps you going? What is the driving force behind everything that you do?
People. I really, every day there is something. People ask me, well, what gets you up, every day? I really wake up excited about, conversations. I get excited about, phone calls I'm going to have, or, I know meetings that people have scheduled with me, or, it's always around people, understanding that, every day is an opportunity for my purpose to be engaged, which is my existence, for being here on the earth, beyond all the wonderful experiences that, that are here for us to enjoy and have, that I live a life where I am so deeply and intimately connected with my purpose, and I'm able to engage it every day. Honestly, it is a different perspective on living. It really is, and I'm just excited about that. I'm excited about Wednesday mornings, getting on the prayer line on Wednesday mornings with a group of people who I never know who's going to be on, but the fact that people have trusted my voice to lead them in prayer on a weekly basis, that's powerful to me. I really do get excited to be used. I really do. Not manipulated, not abused, but used, yes.
Absolutely. I definitely understand what you're saying. Now, what's next for Elliot? What are you working on? I don't want you to go in details, but what are you working on right now?
Well, I really do want to do another book. and I have
Okay.
I am working on it, but it's not going to be anything that it probably won't come out this year, but maybe next year. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a deeper dive into some things that the Influence Workbook has brought out, and also a more personal reflection on my own life, up until this point. But I'm really excited about that. I definitely want to get back to, as you know, at one time I was doing the Influence Architect boot camps, and I have not done those since 2017, and I really, really do want to get back to doing them. Life is a little different in New York and much more demanding of me, so I have to work out my time a little differently. But I am excited that hopefully in 2021 that we will be able to bring the Influence Architect Bootcamp back to a live experience for anyone who is interested, for all of my architects out there.
All right. Now, also, let's talk about, and we're actually off the air. We talked ourselves off the air. But
okay.
As I said, everything that we talk about now will be available on the podcast edition of the radio show. So, Destiny Conversations, the TV show, that I just see going all around the world.
Yes.
Let's talk about how you came up with the concept, how you began it, your journey through it, and what's next for that as well.
Oh man, interestingly, that time, honestly, for me to really get into Destiny Conversations, I really do want to do an edition where I bring back the people who I was talking to at the time when God gave me to do that in the area that I was in Charleston, South Carolina, because there were such strategic, significant happenings going on in the lives of people around me and also in my life. And I started Destiny Conversations because, first of all, I had no idea that it would develop into what it developed in. I will say that, number one. Number two, my brand manager and business partner, Michael Weston, he's the one who made me get online and start these conversations, because at that time my phone would ring consistently every day with people calling with problems or, needing solutions to this or needing solutions to that. And I'm talking about especially ministry leaders. This was one of the greatest times in my life where I was having to minister to ministry leaders who many were dealing with mental issues and depression and, feeling like they were just going to give up and all of this. And I mean, for a season of my life, Dr. Pettyjohn, I literally ministered to people on Saturday, to leaders on Saturday evenings, and they would get up and minister to their churches what I was giving them on Saturday evenings, because they were going through seasons where they didn't even have what it took to even minister or hear a word. And so during that time, I realized that, but the conversations I was having with the ministry people were still coming up in business, and were coming up with my clients, and were coming up. I mean, they were just coming up everywhere. And I said, now, wait a minute. Now, these conversations really are not about anything personal with these. These are just destiny conversations. Like, these are conversations that you have to have on your way to destiny when you start encountering these upsets and setbacks and all of this stuff, because, just across the body at large, people who were in pursuit were feeling attacked, were feeling like, they didn't have what it took. They were dealing with thoughts of giving up and doubt and all of that. And I said, okay, I got to get online and encourage the people, because I honestly got to a place where I got tired of having the same conversation over and over. And I said, I need to get all these people together in one place and have this conversation with them. And so that is really what, at the time I was, I had been, of course, Michael would hear me venting all the time or having these conversations. And he literally said to me, you got to go online. You got to do Facebook Live or I think I did Instagram the first time that I went live. And, only went online, and I said I was going to talk for maybe about 10 minutes. I said I wasn't going to talk long, and ended up being online for a whole hour. And when I looked at the the little screen, and it tells you how many people on there were hundreds of people that had been online listening to me talk for a whole hour. And I said, now wait a minute. I said, y'all are still here? And, people were writing back and saying, yeah. And I said, well, if I got back on and did this again, would y'all tune in? And they said yes. And I said, okay. So I plan to come back on the next night and finish what I started, because I had talked for an hour, but I didn't finish. And I said, even though I only had 10 minutes, remember? So then I said, I got to figure out a way, because the conversation at that time on Instagram, you couldn't archive, the recordings, or, if you went live, it just, when you were done, it was just done. And so, but you were able to download it. So I said, well, I got to figure out a way to be able to put this up so people can see it that missed it. So that's when we switched over to Facebook. And so I let the people know that from now on, I'll be back on there again. And so one night that was supposed to be 10 minutes turned into, a whole week where I was on live, a whole week straight, Monday through Friday, at 10 p.m. and talked for a whole hour every night. And so at that point, I realized, okay, God, I embrace this. There's something here, and I need to do this. These people are hungry. These people are dedicated. I mean, they met me. You were one of them, met me every night. And I said, I need to continue this. And so it just became, I didn't know, Destiny, all of that. It just was downloaded. I didn't have a plan for any of that at all. Matter of fact, I really didn't even want to do it. If Michael hadn't been, so forceful and he just kept bringing it up all day long, and I was like, okay, Lord, if he bring it up one more time, then I'll just do it. But I really was like, I'm gonna just do it just so he can shut up. But I really had no idea that it would turn into being, what it was. But I was sensitive to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's a conversation for another time too. I'm gonna let you finish, but I just wanted to hit real quick. That's a conversation for another time too. For making sure you have people in your life that'll push you where you need to go, even if it gets on your nerves.
Let me tell really, you, and again, well, you know what it takes. Even just to do this radio show, to do your podcast, it's work, and we to do it every day, Monday through Friday, to go live, and to also, after having a whole day of, just life and dealing with what you deal with and all of that, and to have something, to have spent time in prayer and to, hear from God, and then to be able to sit and have these conversations, online and speak into people's lives. That's nothing, to be taken lightly at all. Nothing I ever, play with or any of that. That's very serious to me. But for God to continue to give me something fresh every night, to sit there and do that. It was a lot, but it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I'm telling you, just as you said, you all became and even still are one of the greatest pushes in my life. That core group, because there are many architects all over the world, but there's this core group, those who were with me from the beginning, even still to this day, which is why I'm not able to come on live as much often as I want to, but I'm going to definitely. I've been praying about that, and when I can sit down to make that happen more often. But I really, really, really have to tell you that you all were such and have been one of my greatest pushes when I'm just unsure. I'm able to borrow faith from you all when I've been unsure if things will work, even for me. Even just the demand that the audience put on to have the boot camp and to gather in person, that wasn't something that I came up with. The architects started saying, hey, we want to get together in person. You should put together a weekend where we can come together. And that's how the Influence Architect boot camp came about, So I have always been a person, I say as a speaker, you have to listen twice as much as you speak. And I've always been a person who, even though God has position me as a voice, and I know that I have something to say, that he's also given me a voice to voices. And I'm mindful that the people who have been called to me are also voices themselves. And so I also get an opportunity to listen to them and to be ministered to by their gift as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with everything you said concerning that Destiny Conversations was so powerful, and you can still listen to that. And what I want you to do before we get to these last three questions, I want you to give everybody your social media handles, your website, how they can connect with you, all of those things, and even how they can hear those broadcasts from Destiny Conversations. So I'm going to turn that to your hands for you to do that.
Thank you. On my social media, my Instagram and my Twitter is just at Elliot Carlyle. That's ELLIOT, 1 T, 2 L. Carlyle, CARLYLE. That's at Elliot Carlyle, Instagram and Twitter. I am on Facebook. My page is facebook.com/I am Elliot Carlyle. And then also my website is www.elliottcarlyle.net. That's .net, not .com. And on the website, you can also get the book, and then also there's a tab there that says show, and you're able to go back and look at many of the archived Destiny conversations that are still there, and some of them are also on Facebook. If you feel like doing a deep search and going through my videos on Facebook, you can find many of them, but the easiest way is to view them right there on my website.
Awesome. So now I have 3 questions that I ask everybody at the end of every show.
Yes.
The first question is, you hit us with a lot tonight. I'm telling you, you hit us with a lot. So if people were to forget everything that you said tonight, what is one thing you want them to remember from this conversation?
That everything that you are looking for is already looking for you. And everything that you need to position yourself to get what you're looking for is already on the inside of you.
Yeah, okay. Then number 2, on our show, we like to recognize what we call transforming transformers. Now, transforming transformers are simply mentors and those who have been the behind-the-scenes support system to us to make sure that everything that we bring out in the forefront looks good, it sounds good. We're there. They're just there pushing us. Would you like to recognize at least 3 transforming transformers in your life?
Oh, my gosh, yes, absolutely. And 3 came to mind. Well, I'm actually going to couple one because it's my parents.
Okay.
My parents, Eli and Rosetta, who really are everything for me, gave me the foundation and the opportunity to be who I am today. And then the second one will be my spiritual father and pastor, Prophet Alvin Emmanuel Smith of Sunlight Covenant Church in Crestview, Florida. That is definitely, he has been one of the greatest influential voices in my life. And I would have to say the third person is my business partner, brand manager, partner, confidant, friend. He is just all of those things. Brand manager, Michael Weston, who is the one who came into my life, and really everything that you've seen from Destiny Conversations to Elliot Carlyle, the brand, the voice, to the influence workbook. He has been the brains behind it all. God has given me the vision. He's given me the download. But as far as the content and the way it's packaged and the visuals that you all see, he has been the orchestrator and the architect of it all. He's an incredible brand manager, and I really do thank God for him. He's the one who I've been able to bounce almost every creative idea off that I think is crazy or out of the box, and some things that have come to me that I get excited about, but I really don't have the faith to do them. but I bring it to him anyway, and then he's like, "Yeah, you can do it. This is how you gonna do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't. You really think so?" But no, you really don't find partnerships like this. And one of the things that Pastor Smith, who is his covering as well, said, you guys, you have to just understand what God has done in bringing you two together as an apostolic prophetic team, and you understand that, of course, better than I can even explain it to you. But what God has done, in bringing us together in the way that we're able to flow and minister and do business and build people and create opportunities and create wealth and help other people create theirs. It's just amazing. And every day is a trip and an experience. But I really do thank God that one of the things that he did when he showed up and said that he even wanted to help with my brand was that, he challenged me. He challenged me to think differently, to operate differently. It was a real shift when he showed up, to now get to a place where I had worked and built myself to a place where I needed, another hand with my brand, and that was a blessing. But as I said to everyone on here earlier with the question that you asked me about, what to do now, I have also had to experience my own shifts and embrace my own shifts and allow myself to have time to sit down and rethink and refresh and renew and re-ideate and all of that. I mean, I know what it is, and I've had to do it, and especially that's one of the things that working with Michael, has done, and it keeps me on my toes, even as it pertains to me. So I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And here's the last question, and I end every interview with this question because I love to hear everyone's interpretation from this question. And that question is, who is God to you?
Oh, he is everything. But I will tell you that in this place in my life, I call God a friend. And I really, really think that as we allow ourselves to grow in our relationship, the more intimate that we get with him and the more we allow him to be intimate with us, the closer that he gets to us and the closer that we get to him. And I know that sounds very simple, but what I mean by that is, and you understand this, when you usually, by the Christian experience, we look at God as this big, huge entity that's just so far off from us. He's way off in the sky somewhere. He sits high and he looks low and he's mighty and he's all, we hear all this stuff and, we shout about it, we praise about it, we read about it. The Bible describes him this way. We honor him with all of these words and these accolades and stuff, but I think that sometimes, in all of that, we don't understand the closeness of God, and we don't allow ourselves to embrace the closeness of him. Like he's right here. We can talk to him. He wants to hear from us. He likes to hear from us. He likes to talk to us, just as much as we like to spend time with our homie or our homegirl, and shoot the breeze and kick it with the cool kids. That's how God desires to spend time with us and to deal with us. And I think that takes, time in developing your relationship. But I really, really have at this point realized, wow, God is my friend. and I'm able to approach him as a friend, not through perfection, not through worthiness many times, not through cleanliness, not through right standing, but just through relationship.
And I always like to end with that question because in all the guests that I've had on in this, now over a year, nobody has given the same answer. And that's what I love because it shows just how awesome God is.
Oh, yeah.
And it also shows that no matter how long we've been in relationship with him, there are dimensions of him that we've yet to be introduced to, that when we are introduced to, will continue to transform our lives. That's why I always, and I love asking that question on this show because I've had adult film stars to Buddhists to, those who hold a Christian value, to those who, have decided, I don't believe in anything right now. But everybody's answer was different, but when you tie it all in together, it just helps you understand even the more, not just who God is, but who we all are as well as God's creation. So that's why I just love to end the show with that. So again, Elliot, thank you for joining us on tonight. Thank you for your willingness to be open with our audience. Listen, y'all, thank you all for listening. If there was no you, there'd be no purpose for us recording because we just be sitting here talking to ourselves. So I appreciate each and every one of you. I encourage you, connect with Elliot on his social media, purchase the book, find out everything he has going on, and be sure to support. Our next show is this Sunday, Derek Gordon is back with part 2 of his story. If you haven't heard part 1, make sure you hit the www.cliftonpettyjohn.com/trans4 radio. Now, if that's too much for you, just go to the website, www.cliftonpettyjohn.com, and you'll see a tab there for that. All right? So, again, as I always say, create a great day, walk with purpose, and by all means, execute your vision. Be blessed.